Hello everyone, hello lovely human, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you will know from the thumbnail and the title of this video, today we will be talking about my mental health journey and what it's been like to get professional mental health support in New Zealand, and hopefully that'll give you some insights on how you can do that. I was really in two minds about doing this video because I really wanted to kind of put myself out there, do my own sharing first, because then how do I expect other people to be vulnerable if I'm not doing it myself? But then also the fear of being vulnerable online on the internet. I've just never had the opportunity or really thought about putting my mental health journey on the internet, like from the beginning to the end. I've done like drips and drops here and there on social media, like I'll repost something. I've never actually been able to talk about it from beginning to end. So today might be a long one. I don't know how long this video is going to be. It's probably going to be very long. Grab a drink. Maybe you just want to listen to this while you're doing something else. I don't know, but yeah, grab a cup of tea maybe. Grab a snack. I wanted to break down this video into kind of three different sections. The first obviously being the timeline, so I'll just go from when I started my journey all the way to present, and that's going to be like kind of like a 10-year journey. I'll condense it as much as possible, and then I'll share a little bit about how I personally got professional help in New Zealand. Maybe give you some insight on how you could start or the places that you could get professional support or help from. And then I will talk about the three things that got me through a lot of my mental illness. As a side note, I hesitate to say illness because I feel like, I guess you could say that I was mentally ill or people were mentally ill, but I personally I don't really connect with that word. I don't really identify with that word. So maybe if you have a different word for it, leave it in the comment section below. But anyway, I'll talk you through the things that got me through my mental health illness journey and maybe give you some insight on how you can get through it as well. If that's the reason why you're watching this video, then stay tuned for that at the end. I do have to say that before I start, we will be talking about things that could potentially be triggering or could potentially have an emotional impact on you. So just be really careful when consuming content like this. We will be talking about, depression, anxiety, mental illness, and all of that. So just be prepared. Let's get started. Okay, so number one, we're going to be talking about the timeline. So the timeline spans about 10 years, I want to say. I say 10 years because I want to start from the time that I actually started getting kind of professional help. As a prelude, I moved to New Zealand in 2011 from the Philippines. Then I did a couple of years of schooling. When you move countries, there's a lot of like excitement and hype that happens, right? Because it's like, oh, it's going to be a different place, especially when you're moving to a quote-unquote westernized country. There is a lot of excitement of like, oh, it's going to be a different culture, it's going to be completely new experiences, especially if the country has like different weather, different types of people who live there. There's always going to be that like excitement, but then you don't really realize how much it can be painful as well. When I first moved, I was very cognizant that I was going to miss my life in the Philippines. I was going to miss my friends. I was going to miss out on like major milestones in life. So that was kind of like the initial, like the big life change really made an impact on my mental health personally. And it kind of really changed my life, right? It's usually these big life changes that kind of shake up your mental. Officially, I started seeking mental help in 2014. So this was the time, I think it may have been my second year in university or like my second semester. And what I did was I went to a counselor. I'm going to be looking down a lot, because I'm going to be referencing my notes because this is 10 years of my life, you know, condensed. So in 2014, I went to university counselling. I don't know, I was just like in Kate Edgar, if you know where that is, level 0, kind of looking into counseling help. I don't know, I think someone may have pointed it out to me that, oh, this is available. And at the time I was really, really down because I was studying something that I was not personally like passionate about, something that I didn't love. But I thought, you know, I can do chemistry. I'm not the worst at it, I'm not the best at it, but you know, I can do it. So because it's a science paper, I'll just do it for the prestige that it's a science paper. Not very many people also like pointed me in a different direction. So yeah, because I had done like a year in nursing in the Philippines, it was kind of like, you know, science adjacent, I guess. And then while I was doing chemistry in school in New Zealand, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I can kind of do this. So I decided to do that. And then obviously once I got to my second semester, I was like, fuck this shit. I just did not love it. I love science, but it's just like not my thing. Yeah, so I went to counseling, and that was really, really helpful, because again, it was a big life change going from school to university, studying something that I didn't really love. And yeah, I was struggling a lot. The counselor asked me lots of questions to help me kind of figure out what I want to do, because that was kind of the biggest issue, is that I was doing something that I did not love. And so like my whole being just like completely resisted it. And yeah, it's just kind of like my body just kind of like shut down on me, to be honest. I think my counselor referred me or told me to go to the GP to get an official diagnosis. My memory of this is very blurry because that's kind of what mental illness does to you, especially depression. Your memory is just not as great as it could be because you're obviously not thinking very straight. I'm sure there's like a whole neuroscience aspect to it. So my memory of that time was not great, but essentially shortly after I got my diagnosis of major depressive disorder, and I got put into medication. So my GP, he was basically just a local clinic, and yeah, he put me on some antidepressants. I remember at this time just feeling like I couldn't really talk to anyone about it. At the time I didn't really feel very confident in my own voice, in terms of I didn't like fully realize really what was going on and what I was going through and the impact of it. And so it was really hard to communicate kind of with my family, with my parents about depression. But I do remember very distinctly that I felt like my diagnosis was not taken seriously. I'm just going to say that. In Filipino culture, mental health is not really something that we talk about. And I've had a lot of time to think about this, right? And I feel like I've healed a lot from this, mostly due to like my understanding of the culture, and yeah, just time as well. But for us, like for Filipinos, right, if you have a mental health problem, or if you're feeling down, or if you're feeling like things are not going well for you, what you do is you pray. You pray to God, to Jesus, and that act helps release some of the burden from you. And at that point, I think I was still somewhat religious, but that didn't help me. And being told that, you know, like just give your burdens to God just was not working for me personally. So anyway, 2014, started university counseling, got my official diagnosis, started medication. And then I think I made a very, I don't want to say a quick recovery. From 2015 onwards, I started feeling better, because counseling really helped me a lot. Talking to professionals really helped me a lot, because a lot of that was like kind of action oriented. They would give you like little bits of homework, like reach out to someone this week, or organize a hangout with a friend this week, go back to doing your hobbies this week, or you know, like figure out what you really want to do in university, and then go from there and like make active decisions to chase what you want to do, instead of kind of just going along with whatever pressure or societal expectations that you have, and doing things and feeling like you're betraying yourself. So that was the biggest thing, is that I switched my degree. I met lots of people. I made lots of new friends after switching. I took up Japanese and like just random language classes in university as like my gen eds, and that really helped me like meet new people and new friends, a lot of whom I'm still friends with to this day. Going back to my passion, which was really writing and English and reading, really helped me feel more like myself, like my authentic self, and just giving myself that permission to do what I want and to just be myself, and to tell myself that like, actually it's okay. This is what you should be doing. This is what you should have done all along. But you know, a lot of the times we have to kind of learn the hard way. I was loving what I was studying. I got into dancing as well. At around this time, I met my first kind of dance community and my first dance friends, and I started doing that a lot more. Doing things that I loved really kind of helped me become more healthy. And yeah, eventually I no longer was on medication. Can't really remember when I actually stopped. Again, very blurry time. So this kind of continued from 2016 to 2018, very formative years. Like I was finishing up uni. I was really into what I was studying. As uni life goes, it's a bit up and down. Sometimes you feel like, oh, you're so confident, and then other times you're like, oh, I still have a lot to learn, and then pushing, like studying. But it didn't feel grueling to me because I was doing what I loved. So yeah, it felt very natural, and I was loving it. I love to learn. I would say that uni was going really well. Dance, for the most part, was going really well. I felt like I was part of a really tight-knit community. I met lots of new friends, had lots of social time. And during this time as well, I was working a lot, like doing part-time jobs. So when you are trying to be more responsible for yourself, and when you're doing so many things, like I was juggling so many things, it's really not a lot of time to be sad, or like there's not a lot of time to process emotions. And again, I was mostly having a good time. 2018, I hit a bit of a wall. At this time, I was already working, like my first corporate job. I, at the time, just didn't really have any, like a sense of like work-life balance. I was very busy dancing and, you know, keeping up with my community, running the studio with the Crave Girls. And then at the same time, I was also, you know, trying to grow my career, trying to grow my skills. And then obviously like the immense anxieties that come with starting your first corporate job and like wanting to do really well and all of those things. So I took on this role. It was very stressful. It started creeping into my hours outside of work as well. I started working like overtime a lot, like until 9 p.m, 9:30 I would be working on a weekday. And I think this was the start of like a lot of my symptoms kind of coming back, or a lot of unprocessed stuff that, because I was having such a good time with life, I was enjoying life as such, I didn't really have the need to process. But then this unhealthy relationship with work like really kind of sped up that process of like, fuck. Basically, this time was probably the most tumultuous for me. Things that you don't process when you're younger, or the traumas that you don't process when you're younger, usually appear, like the symptoms usually reappear when you're older. That's very true. And I'm here to warn you, if you're young right now and you feel like you have a lot of, you know, like unprocessed things going on in here, the symptoms will reappear when you're older. They really caught me off guard, let me tell you. I was not expecting any of that, because I was just really so caught up in life. Like I was caught up in living, but I wasn't living in a very conscious way. I was just doing things because I was expected to do them, or I was doing things because it had become a part of my routine. I wasn't really like consciously thinking about, is this good for me? What is the impact of this on my life? How do I balance my identities? All of those things. It was just a big fucking mess. 2018, I went through a very traumatic breakup, and people who know me or who knew me around this time will probably be like, oh yep, that was the time. If you know, you know. And we don't need to get into that like very deeply. This is not the place for that. But essentially what I learned is that my issues really like never went away. I just like busied my way out of them, if that makes sense. And I know that a lot of people do this as well. And this is a trauma symptom too. Or like just like a way that people who have had trauma in their life will kind of cope. This is a coping mechanism, being busy so that you don't have to think about everything that's in here. That sense of like perfectionism, like you just got to keep doing stuff and keep being good at it so that you can feel good about yourself. It doesn't work long term. I ended up getting back into mental health support through work, this time through the EAP, which is the Employee Assistance Program. And that was pretty good. And then after that, I went to my GP as well. And then I got support from there. And then from there, I got referred to another provider. And then from there, I got referred to ongoing professional help, which is like therapy or counselling. I officially started seeing my current therapist in 2019. So it's been 5 years. Crazy. And at first I only started seeing them fortnightly, and then eventually they recommended that I should be going more on a weekly basis so that I could be more consistent, because there were times when I would skip and I would say, oh, it's because of work. I just wasn't prioritizing my own mental health. So they pushed me to do more weekly sessions instead so that I could kind of get into a routine. And I've been going weekly ever since. Yes. Until now. I have a session with them tomorrow. After I started seeing my therapist in 2019, I then got referred to ACC. So my therapist referred me to ACC to get more funded sessions. Essentially what happened was I needed to get diagnosed by an external practitioner so that they could verify my claim, my ACC claim. And if you don't know what ACC is in New Zealand, I will leave a link on the website. It's essentially like support for mental and physical injuries here in New Zealand, at least. Who opened the door? My cat came in. I got assessed by an external practitioner. So the external practitioner diagnosed me with generalized anxiety disorder and then persistent depressive disorder, or PDD, which is a mild to moderate chronic depression. Fun. When I got these results back, it basically meant that I could keep seeing my therapist on a more funded basis. After I got these diagnoses, I was like, kind of like felt like it was adding on to my mental health identity. But then I personally didn't really attach myself to those diagnoses, if that makes sense. Like I don't go around saying, oh yeah, I have so and so and so disorder. That's not really how I cope with it. It's just, oh, that's just a thing that I now have to manage on top of, daily life. I kind of just feel like that's just a part of me, and I'm constantly working on it with my therapist. But that was a diagnosis that I think was in I think this was either 2019 or 2020. I'm sorry if that was a bit long-winded. But in a nutshell, 2014 was when I really started like seeing a counselor, getting professionally diagnosed, getting professional help. And then in between that was kind of all right. But then 2018 happened. So I needed to see a professional again. And then 2019, I started seeing my current therapist, and I got kind of a fresh round of diagnoses. And I've been going to therapy ever since. I've not been taking any medication since my first round, just really ongoing therapy. So started in 2014 and we are now in 2024. So there you go. That's the journey. Wow. So now we come to the second segment of this video, which is probably more helpful for you in terms of, how you feel like you might get mental health help / support in New Zealand as well if you live here. There's heaps of places that I could recommend, and I mean, you could look this up on the internet too. There's heaps of resources now. I think mental health awareness in New Zealand has really ramped up, so that's really good. But at the time when I first started, it definitely was not a thing. Let me tell you, 10 years can make a huge difference. Here's what I would recommend if you were to start your mental health journey now, or you wanting mental health support. Go to your GP. If you have a trusted GP that you see consistently, I would say definitely go to them first. Most workplaces do have EAP as well, so definitely take advantage of that. If you're still in university or in school, then definitely approach your school or university counselor. If you just go on your school website or university website and, look up counselling, there probably is something for you. Usually, your GP or whoever you work with will refer you to another practice that kind of specializes in mental health help. And then obviously there's also ACC, but ACC funded professional support is really quite specific. So I recommend that you kind of do a little bit more research on that. It's a personal journey, so I would recommend that if you want to, you bring this up with your GP, or you look this up, do some research of what's available. Maybe even ring ACC and ask them what their options are, and I'm sure they will be able to help you. And so all the best. There's heaps of resources out there. There's heaps of organizations that can help, like Youthline, for example. They're really great, or just the Mental Health Foundation. Make sure to see what's out there, and I think the first thing is really to acknowledge that if you're feeling a little bit off, it's okay, and that there are places you can go to get support. If you break an ankle, you go to your GP. If you feel physically sick, you go to the doctor, right? This is the same. If you feel like you're not as mentally stable or as mentally able as you want to be, or you usually are, then I think that's a good sign to look after yourself and make the most of the resources that are available to you. Now that we've talked about where to get mental health help in New Zealand, let's talk about some things that can help get you through tough times, outside of just professional help, because professional help is great and everything, but it might not be accessible to everyone. Number one, you may not feel ready to take that step, or maybe it's just not in the cards for you right now. Maybe it's just something you're working yourself up to, which is great. I think don't pressure yourself too much. Just take it easy on yourself. You're already going through a lot. Here's what got me through my really tough times. These are things that I would recommend that anyone does as well. So besides getting professional help, of course, I would say finding community is the biggest thing. So for me, that was my dance community, my dance friends, making friends that I feel like I could trust, that I could talk to, or reconnecting with old friends that I haven't seen in a long time. Or, obviously I had friends from the Philippines that now live in various places around the world. Just making sure that I stay connected to them. Finding community is really, really important. We are social beings, so no matter how much we say, I'm independent, I don't need anyone in my life, you're kidding yourself. We're kidding ourselves, actually. That's not how it works to be a human. And I'm telling you now, I know many people who have said, I'm just gonna be by myself, I can't trust people, and it is a trust exercise to put yourself out there, and people aren't perfect, including ourselves. So try to find people that you feel comfortable with, that you feel like you can be yourself around. That's probably the biggest thing. A very common way to do that is, of course, to, get into hobbies, or like if you like board games, then, join a board game club, or if you like sports, then get back into doing that sport. And you don't have to do it, competitively. You can just do it socially. There's lots of those kinds of clubs everywhere. I challenge you, if you are in a state of isolation right now, to please reach out. You really don't know who's ready to support you until you give them a chance. You have to give people a chance to support you. You have to reach out sometimes, because sometimes we're so good at pretending that we're okay that people don't know to reach out. And so we have to facilitate that, because we play a huge part in our own healing. So facilitating connection, really pushing ourselves to book that coffee catch up, give them a text, a message, whatever it is, whatever it takes. On the topic of, community as well, just being around people who love you, believe in you, and accept you will do wonders for your nervous system. It really does. It just makes you feel like relax, like you can just be yourself, like your true, open, loving, authentic self when you are around people who love you just as you are. For me, that was my grandparents. My grandparents, on my mom's side, are so affectionate with me and with their grandkids. They always tell us that they love us. They always compliment us. They always congratulate us. They always say that they're proud of us. So find people like that who you just can go to at any point, or you just remember them and you think, I have people in my life who just believe in me as I am and love me as I am. That's really, really key. Another thing I would say is to definitely prioritize peace in your life. So as much as possible, drop the things that stress you out, or at least minimize the things that stress you out. So that could be, work will always be stressful, but just having better boundaries at work. Maybe your friendship group isn't as positive as it could be, so maybe you need to distance yourself from some people to reclaim your peace. Maybe you're around lots of people who cause you a lot of stress, so having your boundaries very clear, knowing what triggers you, or what actions, what things that happen around you that trigger you, and just distancing yourself from those. Prioritize your own peace. Last but not the least, find things to look forward to, whether that's sports, food, nature, clothes, hobbies, anything you can think of that brings you joy, or that makes you want to get out of bed and look forward to the day. It doesn't have to be huge things like, I'm going to do that trip to Japan and it's the only thing that's keeping me alive until that point. As exciting as that is, you can't live your life consistently looking forward to things that are in the future, so you're putting your happiness on hold until that thing happens. You can be happy now. You can find things that are in the now that you can look forward to, like a nice shower, or just time with your pet, cuddling them, going out to the ocean and smelling the ocean breeze. If it's a nice sunny day, I personally really look forward to being out and about and getting lots of sun and going on good, nice walks with a friend. Looking forward to your first cup of coffee of the day, looking forward to my first meal of the day. These are things that might seem small, but they really enrich your life, especially if you consume them, or you are very present when you enjoy these things. Yeah, sure, when you wake up and you have your first coffee and you just chug it, you're not exactly enjoying it, are you? Just take things a bit slow, make the coffee how you like, smell it, enjoy it, make the most out of it, because every second that you spend really giving yourself that time to enjoy something will just make it easier to enjoy other things in the future. So this is something that I learned from a podcaster that I always listen to, Alexis Paredes, and she says, neurons that fire together, wire together. What does that mean? If you do something consistently, then your brain will end up doing this without much effort eventually. It's kind of like building a habit, right? At first, you're not very good at driving, are you? We're all very stressed out about it. But eventually, after many hours of practice, it becomes second nature. A lot of the time, we stop having to think about driving. We just do it. That's how I would suggest you approach this. Just get used to slowing down, thinking about how do I make the most out of this situation? How can I better enjoy this experience? That kind of thing. Yeah, I really think that finding things to look forward to in the day-to-day really makes a huge difference, and not just in a dopamine hit kind of way. Not just like, oh, I'm gonna scroll in TikTok for many hours today. Not necessarily like that. Although if you are very intentional about it, then yes, I think there can still be joy found in that. But what I mean is just like be intentional about small day-to-day things, and eventually it will add up to big day-to-day things. Things like treating yourself to a pastry. That's something to look forward to. You know, in this huge journey that is life, there's so many things that can really bog us down, and then we forget that the small things actually give us a lot more joy than we give them credit for. We tend to take for granted these small things, but there is really a lot of joy to be taken from just realizing that we are alive right now. I am eating this delicious croissant right now that I've spent X amount of dollars on, and I'm gonna enjoy every bite of it because you know what? I've treated myself to this. I'm gonna enjoy it as much as possible. So yeah, whether that's nature, activities, hobbies, good food, or, you know, just treating yourself to the odd small or big treat, make sure that you try to have something to look forward to. Maybe that's hard to do on a day-to-day basis, and maybe that's still something that you're working up towards, because sometimes it can really be difficult to find things to look forward to when you're in a rut, or like when you're really down in the dumps and you feel like it's gonna be a tough climb out. And I hear you. I feel you. But gratefulness really helps when it comes to depression. And I'm not saying toxic positivity, like, I should be grateful for these. You know, if you don't feel it, then it's not real. So yeah, I would say those are the things that got me through, and it'll be different for everybody, obviously. Find what works for you, find what gives you joy, and really, really hone in on that, and let yourself enjoy life. That's the thing. Some of us might feel that is difficult because we have not earned it or we don't deserve it. But really, you do. We all do. You deserve to be happy just as much as the other person, and whatever happiness looks like, you know, will look different to everyone else. Just really get in touch with yourself. Ask yourself, what makes me want to look forward to another day, and then really hone in on that, and, you know, try to remind yourself as much as possible. Okay, well, that was a long one. Thank you for sticking around. Condensing 10 years of, you know, mental health events has been really challenging. I will probably, you know, flesh out some other topics kind of in other videos. Oh my god, that's cat hair on my nose. If there's a specific topic that you want me to talk about, make sure to leave it in the comments below. If you have other questions about, you know, how to get mental health help, just reach out to me. Go on like Facebook, Instagram, or whatever, and I can give you any insights that I may have that I didn't discuss here. That's it for today's video. Thank you for sticking around. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Make sure to eat well, exercise, sleep well. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.